Hey everyone, welcome to another exciting episode of the Scratch the Track podcast presented by the Dude and Grim Show. I'm Dude.
And I am Grim. And today we are going to ourselves keep it like a secret while we're talking about Keep It Like a Secret by Built to Spill.
Exactly. So many secrets.
Yeah. 1999 release.
Woohoo. February 2nd, day before my birthday and Groundhog's Day. So yeah, awesome. Really good day.
Yeah.
Next day's a little better, but
great day.
A great day. Good luck. Great drummer. So Grim, I think before we get into it though, we should have everyone go ahead and give us a
like, subscribe, and comment below.
Yes, please do that. Please do that. Because we love discussing albums on this show. There's so much fun.
And we would love you to discuss it with us. That would make us really happy and fulfilled. Like we would get to the upper echelons of Maslow's hierarchy, which is self-actualization, if you did that.
Yeah, what he said.
So
exactly. So Grim, this is their fourth full-length album, and their second with Warner Brothers. The previous one being Perfect From Now On, which is another favorite I know of mine, and I assume
I really like. I actually listened to that one today. I listened to both of these today, but it was funny because I think if you just download some of the albums on whatever streaming service you're using, Perfect From Now On will come up after Keep It Like a Secret. So to me, it's just like, like once this one ends with Broken Chairs, I mean, like, fuck yeah, I'm going to listen to Randy describe Eternity.
Of course, which is weird though, because that one came before it, but yeah.
Well, I know. Yeah.
It's, dude, Randy did describe Eternity. He really did. He really did. But I'm a huge fan of that one. And also this one. And then what's after this? Ancient Melodies of the Future.
Yeah, which I feel like if you look at this one and Ancient Melodies of the Future, I feel like for a lot of Built to Spill fans, this is one man's opinion, but I feel like those are the two that will constantly get like debated over as to what is the best Built to Spill album.
Yeah. Well, interesting. And, since we've kind of been on the topic over the past few weeks, what would you recommend if people have never listened to Built to Spill? What's the one you'd have them start with? It would probably be Ancient Melodies or this one.
I'd start with this one. I do like this album better. The only thing that in Ancient Melodies of the Future is a great album, but the only thing that I think that one has that you really can't fuck with is Trimmed and Burning.
Oh, dude! In your mind,
yeah. But Trimmed and Burning to me is like I would argue like a top 5 quintessential Built to Spill song you 100%. Must listen to. It's really good.
Yeah. Well, I think, and for people who haven't known, if there's fans out there who Built to Spill, what album would you recommend people start with? And also let us know like what one's your favorite? Because for me, it is. I feel like. Sort of it's the golden period where it's Ancient Melodies, Keep It Like a Secret, Perfect From Now On, and then You in Reverse. Those 4 albums for me just kind of really.
I would absolutely agree with that. I would agree.
I have some of the newer ones. I haven't connected with them as much as these these other ones in the golden period that I kind of call it. But there's still some good songs on there. I just haven't connected with them like I do with these right here. So.
Now, one thing I will say about this one is reading up on it, it sounded to me, and I could be wrong, and if you're like a diehard Built to Spill fan, please, by all means, feel free to correct me here, but it sounded to me like they hadn't necessarily solidified a real lineup other than basically like Doug Marsh. And then Brett Nelson was playing bass, and in terms of drums, it looks like they had a couple different drummers,
people in and out.
But it sounded to me like, especially in Perfect From Now On, that it was more like Doug Marsh basically in the studio and like with a drummer playing everything, playing most of the songs. but it would appear to one that once they did this album, they had a pretty solidified lineup. I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. I should actually, I didn't do that before, but it'd be interesting to look at, those 4 albums that I just mentioned and like what, if they fit in like with a certain lineup or who was in and out during that time.
Well, yeah, because you had Brett Nelson. I guess in the beginning he played some drums too. Am I reading this right?
Man of many talents, apparently.
No, I guess he was always playing bass, but at some point he played guitar, and then drums for "Keep It Like a Secret" is Scott Plouffe.
Yeah, yep.
But
he was there for a while. Him and Brett Nelson were there for a while, and looks like him and Brett Nelson both left in the kind of the same year, I guess. Or no, well, Brett switched, I guess, from bass, and then he went mostly to guitar at that point, and Jason Albertini took over for bass at some point. So anyways, Doug Marsh has certainly been the constant. I always think of him as sort of the creative driving force in this band, and similar to like a Queens of the Stone Age, right? With Josh Homme. I mean, just you got one person who just kind of drives the bus, and that's just it. There's such a, I mean, they're probably, I think for me they really sum up sort of this kind of the indie rock sound. Like if I'm like thinking of one band, like there's a few bands out there that if you're like, hey, I tell me what indie rock sounds like, I would put on Built to Spill.
I would too. Built to Spill and like earlier Modest Mouse, but they're all kind of from the same camp in a way, and that's one thing. And before we get too into it, I do have to give a shout out because I would have never heard about Built to Spill if it wasn't for our friend Joseph Fedrosi, who gave me this CD. And it was funny, though, because he gave me a CD of Keep It Like a Secret.
Yeah.
And the song The Plan had like a bunch of blips and shit in it. And it was kind of fucked up. And then it didn't have the song Broken Chairs. So until I listened to this years later on a streaming service that had everything, I didn't even know about Broken Chairs. So like that was my Scratch-A-Track before Scratch-A-Track was even born, because I didn't even fucking know about it.
Dude, I didn't even know about Broken Chairs until like last week. So
yeah.
It was I'd been listening to it for years. I just thought it ended with Temporarily Blonde. I know. That's just the way I had it in my
But
iTunes.
Joe gave me this album and he gave me Ancient Melodies of the Future. And I think the track that he introduced me to Built to Spill on was Happiness, which is on Ancient Melodies of the Future. Sure. Great song. And when I heard it, I was like, dude, yeah, I want to listen to this band.
Right on.
So then, you get these 2 albums and there you go. But for some reason, this album always stuck with me in a more personal way. And I don't know why. I mean, maybe it's because it was like their transition album in a way, right? From being a project to a band, so to speak. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I really feel like with this, I mean, they really sort of kind of came into their own, because if you look at, and I love, Randy described Eternity, and what is it? Is it, it's the album Perfect From Now On, and I Would Hurt a Fly.
I Would Hurt a Fly, yeah.
Great, some great songs on there.
Oh yeah.
And the thing is, though, is once they were done with that album, Doug Marsh basically said he was kind of burned out on writing sort of these like longer songs.
Yeah.
If you look at that, almost every song is almost 6 minutes and up. Some are 8, 7, 8, 6.
And this is quite different. I mean, most songs are, you got a few outliers that exceed 5 minutes, and Broken Chairs is long, but it's the last song on the album.
Yeah. But
you're right. I think I read something where he said that was like kind of his intention. I think it's the same thing that you're referencing, where, you don't want to write, every song doesn't need to be Shine On You Crazy Diamond parts 1 through 5 or 6 through 9.
Look at all these parts. exactly.
Look at all these.
And I thought the process of writing this, and you may have read about this as well.
Dude, I did. And it was really interesting
awesome
to me.
It was like, they basically would have a jam session up in Boise I think they had jam sessions for like a week or something. And he had
up to 5 hours at a time.
Yeah. And he had a foot pedal that once I think they got into a groove or a part that he was like, okay, I'm digging this. He'd hit the foot pedal, it would start recording.
Yeah.
And then he could turn it off. And then he just went back afterwards and he listened and he took kind of sort of his favorite parts and kind of put those together. And I think that's a really interesting way to do that.
I think that is totally cool. Cause when I bought my first house, which is not where I live now and I wasn't married, I used to have like all the musicians that I knew over, and I would set up instruments all throughout the house and just set up some microphones. And there were a bunch of jams that we would just get into, and I would just hit record on the thing. And I actually like use some of these pieces in songs that I've made. Now, granted, none of these songs you'll ever hear other than the intro to the show, probably. But I mean,
or outro. Yeah.
I like that idea because in a way that is like the most organic way to get music, because you just have people playing together. Yep. And there's no goal in mind. That to me, I guess to me, that's what songwriting is sitting down at an instrument with no goal in mind. And that's how I've written. Happens. Yeah. Let's see what happens, Larry. That's how I've written a lot of my songs, is just sitting down at an instrument with no goal in mind. And then you play something and you're like, oh my God, like I need to record that bit. Well,
it reminds me a lot of kind of how Bitches Brew, right? I mean, that's kind of what those sessions were. And I mean, with that in that regard, with Bitches Brew, it was more like it was recording the process, recording the process and the creativity.
Yeah. But they took and then made a legitimate album. Instead of just like a bunch of like, which Bitches Brew is one of my favorites, but I don't know that everyone's ready for it.
Probably not. It's not ready for Scratch a Track, that's for sure.
I know what I would scratch, but I know what you mean. I don't know that the crowd is ready for it. It's just, some things are just too much.
Yeah. I mean, most people aren't even ready for the concept and idea of this show. So,
I will say though, I play in this, like, basically it's funny. It's like a dad's pickleball league. Yeah. With a bunch of guys like in East Grand Rapids,
just rocking those dad bods.
And I'll be like, oh man, I gotta leave, and they're like, oh, do you know why you gotta go? And I'm like, oh, I gotta record my podcast. And then I tell them the idea of the podcast, and like they're into it and they want to listen to it.
Yeah.
So I don't think that our idea is that crazy. So please, like, like do us a favor and go ahead and
like, subscribe, and comment below.
Yes.
Because we don't think it's crazy, and people that I tell this to don't think it's crazy either. And they don't even know me that well. So like they don't have to worry about like, stroking my ego.
No, they don't. Not stroking anything. That's for sure.
Dude, well, it would be a whole different league.
It would be a really weird league. So yeah, I mean, I think the last thing I really sort of wanted to touch on maybe before we got into the songs, and you brought up Modest Mouse earlier. Now, one of the producers who kind of worked with a lot of bands in that area is Phil Eck, because he had produced on Modest Mouse, Lonesome Crowded West, Moon and Antarctica, also worked with the Shins and Band of Horses. But he produced their Built to Spill's previous two albums, and then this one, and he's continued to produce at least a few of their albums throughout the whole year. I'm not, or throughout the years. I'm not sure about the most recent ones exactly, but I'm pretty sure if the next few after this he did as well. So pretty cool. And you see him, I've seen him interviewed in that Modest Mouse, Lonesome Crowded West documentary.
He seems like an awesome guy.
Yeah, I just like, hey man, let's hang out and produce some music. Yeah.
Well, and it's funny because we had done the Modest Mouse episode, and we both watched the Pitchfork documentary, which is phenomenal. About Very Lonesome Crowded West. And they talked to Phil Eck, And that was one thing, being that just based on where Built to Spill it comes from, which is Boise, Idaho. I kind of had this inkling in my mind, like, I bet Phil Ek produced this album. And then when I read it, I was like, dude, that's awesome. Like he did. Yeah.
Yeah. And so he did.
And there's an interesting story that I don't want to divulge now because I found some weird article on, like, dude, like, seriously, the old internet where it's like all text. It was like a very old article, but it talked about some of the stuff that they went through when they did this album. And that's where they talked about, like, the tape machine and the jams.
Right.
And they talked about some stuff with Perfect From Now On, which I'm pretty sure we'll be scratching at some point. So I'm not going to get into it, but I don't know. Just, I think a really cool producer and a cool guy, and, you know, has done some work that has meant something to me. And
I'll tell you what, I mean, there's a bunch. I mean, he's worked on at least 6 albums that I'm like, man, those are in, you know, might be top 100 albums. Like, that's pretty good, man. That's pretty good. So, well, Graham, I think, I think we can pretty much kind of get in the tracks now. I'm ready to go if you are.
Yeah, I do. There's one thing I want to talk about, and I read some of the reviews for this album. Okay. And one review that really pissed me off was by a guy called Robert Christgau, and he gave the album a 2-star honorable mention.
Okay.
And so for that, I have to say,
what the fuck is that shit?
Because, dude, this is not a 2-star album. Like, no. I hope you mean 2 out of 3, because other than that, you're kind of an asshole. Like,
even that's low. I mean, you know.
Yeah, I know. I agree. Like, this is a great album, and there was another. I read through it again, but I couldn't find it. But there was somebody else who gave this thing like a shitter review and just said it was mediocre at best.
Yeah.
And so to all of you, I would say, you know, go fuck yourselves. This is a great album.
Dude, I'd mark it an 8. I'd mark it an 8, dude.
You know, easily.
Yeah.
Easily. Yeah. So, anyways, with that.
Moving on. All right, track number 1, The Plan. I think this song really, I mean, it's a great way to start the album, but it falls in line sort of with what Doug Marsh wanted to do. It is, you know, it's a straightforward kind of indie rock pop song. There are some songs on this album that have a little more of a poppy feel, and I feel it. This is a little more. This is one of them, but it's a shorter song. It's more concise than anything you sort of heard on Perfect From Now On.
But it does kind of get a little like darker in the middle.
Sure.
You know?
Yeah. Well,
and aside from the blips, it was actually amazing to listen to this song without the blips. And Jobu, that is not a stab at you. I mean, dude, this is why Scratch a Track started, because of the fucking CD. Maybe not that one, but just that concept. I mean, shit happens.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because one thing that Built to Spill does, and Modest Mouse sort of does it too in their own way. They both have these distinct sounds, and I don't know why I keep kind of comparing them, but you know, Built to Spill has that kind of squealing guitar, you know, they'll do that. Yeah. Modest Mouse kind of has that too, and there's a little bit of that in this song, and it's sort of, I guess you could say it's sort of their trademark. You know, kind of like.
But one thing I will say is if you're gonna make that comparison, I feel like. With Modest Mouse, Isaac Brock's vocals are more harsh, but I think Doug Marsh's vocals are like delivered very smoothly, and I really like the sound of his voice. Yeah. I think it's a pleasant sound.
Well, yeah, I feel like, and I've seen him interviewed a few times, and he kind of has this very gentle, and he seems like a big dude. You know, but he's almost kind of like this, sort of like a gentle giant. And it sounds like he has sort of like I don't know if I'd say a quieter voice, but I feel like he just seems like a very kind of like level-headed, chill dude. It's a very unique voice. Like, you know, when you're hearing Built to Spill, like, you know.
Yeah. And there were a couple of reviews I read, and this will transition into I guess into Center of the Universe, but I think in the other songs is just like the tone of the guitar. And throughout this album, I really appreciate the tone of the guitar, and I hear a lot of slide work too.
Okay.
But not so much in the second track, which is Center of the Universe. I feel like the plan kind of follows what in my mind is the sound, if you will, of the album. And Center of the Universe is a little more chopped up and kind of rhythm driven.
Yeah.
But it's an interesting change nonetheless.
Yeah, it is. And
I like how he sings the lyric part like with the rhythm, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Again, I feel like this is sort of another poppy type song. It's not as some of the rest of it is very dreamy, right? And they can kind of get into these deep, long kind of things. But this is I believe, the shortest song in the album at 2:46. It looks like. But one thing I think people don't actually talk about enough is some of his lyrics. I really like
good lyrics.
Some of his lyrics, like in this song, like "Don't look now, just keep watching your TV." What is it? I mistyped something. Wait to see. Waiting for someone to say something that's right. I don't like this air, but it doesn't mean I'll stop breathing it.
Yes, that is a good line. That is a good line. But see, okay, so we'll go to the next one. And to me, I mean, I like the plan and I like this song. But dude, Carry the Zero is to me the one that like that's the song that like really hooked me. And one thing I like is the use of the tremolo where he's like where they do that chord and they hold it and just bend it down before the whole song just comes in.
Dude,
that's really nice. And then pair that with the guitar tone overall, and it's just and I love it because that's like a lyrically that's like a fucking throwback to like grade school and doing like long multiplication and division, like carrying the zero or addition. I guess.
No, I think same with me. This is a song that really kind of hooked me on the album when I heard it, and it's kind of almost a very simple kind of basic song. It doesn't have the song moves, but the way he sings it sort of has this kind of a melancholy feel to it, and I really like the way he does that. But I just love the way it flows. But it's interesting because he'll sing, he sings for a bit, sings the verses, and then there's like these sort of like longer, I guess, kind of solo sections. For a little longer than maybe you normally would hear, and then then the singing comes back in, and I think it ends kind of with that as well. But I like how he incorporates some the math elements into the song.
I do think that's cool.
What does he say? And you've become what you thought was dumb, a fraction of the sum.
Yeah,
it's just kind of
they're very clever lyrics. And okay, so go to the next song, it's Sidewalk, where I think I like that too. It's a little more upbeat, a little faster. Yep. And I'm not looking at the lyric sheet, but what is it? Can you wait for the sidewalk? Can it wait for you?
Can it wait for you? Yeah. It's again, I feel like it's kind of like a poppy song. And it just kind of has that sort of that feel. And there is a middle section where they kind of have this, it's kind of like a breakdown solo section, but there's a bass plays and it gets real fuzzy and everything. Which I guess isn't something I hear. I guess I'm trying to think of some songs there where I really feel like I hear the bass emphasized. Typically, it's the guitar, but
they do a great job in there, and I think they do some nice slide work over the bass too, which I think is nice. And that's the thing is once you get to this point in the album, I feel like everything really transitions well because it goes right into Bad Light. Oh, and you get that.
It's so cool, right?
Yeah.
Ding, 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 ding.
Dude, it's so hard to see in Bad Light. I mean,
again, so Carry the Zero, Bad Light, and we'll get to some other song in Time Trap. Like those are the three songs that I'm just like,
dude, Time Trap is. I'm just gonna go ahead and say it before we get there. Time Trap is my favorite one on the album, no question. Like that's such a good song. So don't scratch it because you'll get a WTF ITS.
Oh, believe me, I won't. But going back to Bad Light, I love how the song sort of just it continually sort of builds up. And, I agree. But it starts off and it has that little guitar riff and everything. The drums kind of come in, but then there's this sort of sharp transition when he starts singing the lyrics.
Never forever.
And oh man, and then it just kind of rocks for a bit. And I just think that, when he sings that part, and I kind of wait for the part the whole time when he gets to, it's so hard to read in Bad Light. And he says that multiple times. I love the way the song just kind of changes, man.
I know.
It's so good.
And I really, there was an article I read that actually like referenced this line in the song, but for some reason, the line that always stuck out to me is a firm background in remembrance.
Okay.
Like that's just an interesting line. I just, the lyrics like chop up and flow just right. And it's, I don't know. It's a good line.
Yeah. And it takes some math and there's so much more. It's hard to read in Bad Light. It is. It is. Well,
and dude, it'll hurt your eyes. That's what my parents always do. Like, dude, you don't read in the dark. It'll hurt your eyes.
Dude, what my parents always said is don't stand too close to the TV. You're going to burn your eyes out. And then what do we do now? We're like this close to our phones.
Yeah.
Like, all day.
The blue light, dude, just. Yeah.
There's that. All right. We're in a time trap here.
Dude, my favorite one.
It's such an interesting, non-conventional song in the way it's constructed. I know. Like it's the great. The intro is so over. Great. It's over 2 minutes. It's like this 2-minute instrumental intro, and then after like the lyrical, all of a sudden the lyrics come in, and there's like another sort of like sharp turn when he starts singing. I know. And I've never heard a song like that before. It's pretty cool, man. The
chord change is really good. Dude, Tractor Beam sucks you right in. It's a great song. And I remember I've always liked this whole album, but if I could pinpoint a song that sucked me into Built to Spill more than anything, it is this song. No question.
It sucks as it cuts.
Yeah.
So then I guess we move on to Else. And in a way, this song kind of I really like this song a lot. It reminds me a little bit sort of in structure of like Carry the Zero. There's not a lot of sharp transitions.
Yeah, sure.
It just has a good flow to it. I like, I definitely like the lyrics and everything. There's one, it's kind of at the end, like just this side of love is where you'll find the confidence not to continue. Your body breaks.
Yeah.
Your needs consume
you forever. Yeah.
But at the end though, it's like, and with this lies the need to be here together. I always wondered if that is kind of sort of lies, I know with this lies or like telling lies, and like, I like the sort of double meaning you could kind of attribute to that. I thought that's pretty cool. I do. But yeah, it's weird because there's, and then after the lyrics end, then there's almost like a 2-minute jam at the end. So
what is that? There's one in everyone. Is that what he said? There's one in everyone.
I think so.
Or is that at the end of Temporarily Blind? That's
the end of Temporarily Blind, because he said, he's like, isn't everyone? He sings it like 8 times. Yeah, it's pretty cool. But with this song, again, like the last 2 minutes, they kind of pick their spots where they're gonna jam out and stuff, but they don't.
They do.
And they go for a while, but again, they're still able to sort of.
It's not too much. It's not too much, manageable. And I think that's what's an interesting and important thing about this is that they kind of really hone and just like ride that line of tighten like up. The jams. Yeah, dude, they just tighten up on that bass, tighten up on that guitar, and I think they do an excellent job of not making it tedious.
Yeah, and I don't think they really wanted to be, once you kind of get pigeonholed as a jam band, like,
oh yeah,
that
dude, game over.
Now I will say I've seen them live a few times, and
I have not. That's sweet.
Yeah, well, dude, when they play live, actually, I have the show. They played at the Vic. It was the Vic Theater in Chicago, and I have the show. And they will expand on songs and go on longer jams.
Well, and I think that's pretty normal for just, live in general.
So at this show, though, that I saw him at, dude, they played a 15-minute version of Carry the Zero.
Damn, that's... Dude, I would pretty cool. I would listen to that.
Yeah,
that's cool.
Yeah, this was on the, I believe the You in Reverse tour.
Nice.
So it was a good one to see.
Damn, that's cool.
Well, then we go to You Were Right. And I've always sort of, reading about it a little bit, but I've always liked this song for the kind of almost like the shout outs, right? To all
it's amazing. Now, did you read about how this song almost did not make the album just because they were worried about the copyright issues with the other other lyrics?
Man, because they had to clear a lot because they use a lot of just little short snippet phrases from. They
do. Now, I especially wanted to talk about this as opposed to many of the other songs just because of the lyrics. Because lyrically speaking, I think it's one of the most incredible songs of all time. I do.
It's cool. Yeah.
I like what they're saying. And I love how they reference not all of it, but I mean, like, probably a lot of the music that meant something to them and that meant something to everyone else, leading up to it. And I really want to take a minute, since this is a shorter episode, to really talk about this song. So the only one that was a little trickier for me to find, and I would like to know if you found something different, is the first line that says you were right when you, well, not the first line, but when they get into the you were right part. You were right when you said all that glitters isn't gold.
Oh.
Did you look these up? Because I know most of them but did you look
Stairway to Heaven.
That's from Stairway?
Yeah, dude. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess it would be. When I looked up that lyric, the first thing that came up was a song.
He says, does he say isn't gold? Because in Stairway they say all that glitters is gold, and she's buying a stairway to heaven.
No, they say isn't gold.
Right.
And so when I
think that was a little bit of a play on words, but
it could be. Yeah. But when I looked that up, what I found was something that said everything that glitters is not gold. And it's a song by Dan Seals, who's like a country artist. And it's basically like a country song, and it's about like him, and he has a kid, and like the wife left, and
interesting.
They just kind of go on about their business, and that's in the crux of the song is everything that glitters is not gold.
Okay. I mean, I would still probably lean towards it being a little bit of a play on words to Stairway to Heaven, just because when I put that when I put it in context with the other songs and artists that are referenced,
I understand it falls more in that line. In that genre, it really does. Category. And that's why I wanted to ask you, because in my mind, I'm like, I feel like I'm missing something. Like, I've listened to this song by Dan Seals. I've read the lyrics. And although the lyrics make sense, I feel like it doesn't really make sense with the rest of the music, but who knows? Maybe that's something that Doug Marsh's parents listened to as he was a kid, or, it's possible. You just don't know. But okay, so we go past that line. No. You were right when you said we're all just bricks in the wall.
In the wall. Pink Floyd, another brick in the wall.
And when you said manic depression's a frustrating mess, Jimi Hendrix. And then you go to the next verse. You were right when you said you can't always get what you want. Rolling Stones. Yep. Hard Rain's Gonna Fall. Bob Dylan. Running Against the Wind. Bob Seger.
Okay. I didn't know
Life Goes On Long After the Thrill of Living Is Gone, John Mellencamp.
Okay.
And then you were right when you said This Is the End.
And my friend.
Jim Morrison.
Yeah, the Doors. Yeah. Yeah. Well, they also do, there's also Dust in the Wind as well, a lyric that.
Did I miss that one? I'm sorry. So. I thought I said that one. Dust in the Wind. Yeah, that's Kansas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
But I think that's, to me, when I heard that song the first time, knowing all those songs, aside from knowing the bit about All That Glitters Isn't Gold. Now, with that in mind, I did do a search, dude, that looked for all lyrics containing All That Glitters Isn't Gold. And you know what came up?
What?
I found it on lyrics.com and it said, yee, we found 232,848 lyrics, 164 artists, and 49 albums matching All That Glitters Is Not Gold. So apparently that line is really, even if you want to attribute it to the Led Zeppelin or whatever, it is apparently not that unique.
Well, please tell me that they did it first, because otherwise there's going to be a lawsuit.
Yeah. So anyways, I found that interesting because when I looked up those lyrics, I was like, God, I feel like I'm missing something. I don't think it's this song, but I don't know. I'm not Doug Marsh. I'm not.
No, Doug, if you're watching, which I'm sure
you
are,
dude, please
let us know.
Tell us where it came from.
I won't be able to sleep tonight. So
yeah.
All right. Track number 9, Temporarily Blind.
Yeah.
This is, so I feel like this is another kind of poppy type song, and it's you don't think so?
But it's kind of dark too.
Yeah, but
at least in the beginning, I feel like the way it comes in is like a little.
I think the way he sings, though, isn't it everyone? Isn't it everyone?
But that's at the end. I get you're right. It does go to something that's a little more poppy, but I feel like how it comes in is a little darker.
Yeah. Well, it does. I feel like the song kind of it does stay pretty consistent until you get to the last sort of quarter of the song, and it really has to like some ups and downs and interesting transitions. They just kind of sort of go off a little bit. They have their kind of a mini jam thing going on.
And I think this is an interesting track to talk about because, as I mentioned, getting the CD from Mr. Joe Brew, mine ended with Temporarily Blind.
It did. I was like, all right. Yeah,
I thought that was the end of the album.
Right in. Fade out.
And honestly speaking, I think if you thought of Temporarily Blind as the end of the album, there would probably be a part of you that was a little bit like,
what the fuck is that shit?
Because it doesn't seem like it's done. It's like a whole, it doesn't seem like the end.
My friend, it doesn't. Yeah.
And so that's why I was so glad to listen to this album, I guess, in the way we have both now, and listen to Broken Chairs and understand that, okay, there is a true ending to the album. And Broken Chairs is like, it plays out like a legitimate end to an album. It kind of fades out.
Oh my God.
You
Dude,
know?
The fade out is almost like a minute long. It is a long fade out at the end. They really took their time. But here's the thing. I mean, this is, by far the longest song. This is if you're going to have a song like this, I really feel like this is the, perfect part, spot in the album. I would put it at the end.
For sure.
But it was just, it was kind of interesting because it was, new to both of us. And I wonder if this is one of those ones that kind of came from the,
jam sessions,
the jam sessions. And kind of, they really, took a huge chunk of it and sort of refined it.
But I think it's a great song to end the album with, especially the way they do it. And I like the addition of the keyboards by Sam Coombs.
What about the middle when they start whistling?
Yeah, I do like the whistling.
It's kind of funny, right? Yeah.
The piano, I'd like to know. I wish that there was information on what it was.
I need more information.
I kind of felt like it was a whirly, but who knows? It could have just been like a keyboard put through an amp, or who knows? Who knows?
Who knows what they're...
That is the nerd in me coming out. My apologies.
Exactly. All right, Grim. It's time to scratch this one, my friend. Mm-hmm. And for those of you playing at home, this is the point. We've talked about each song. And now we choose which one we would scratch. Now we love this album. We probably, don't think that any song should be removed from the album. But if you had to scratch one, what would it be?
Yeah, take your CD to the beach a few times and tell me what happens.
See
which
how
one
that
would you
out.
choose?
What would you do? All right, Grim, who's up? Me? You?
I feel like you were up on the last one.
I think I was. Yeah.
So I would scratch Center of the Universe.
Okay.
Again, not that I don't like the song, but to me, it's just kind of a little like quirky and happier than the rest of the album. And if there was one that I was going to do without, I could definitely go from the plan and to Carry the Zero and through the rest of the album.
For sure.
I wouldn't scratch Broken Chairs. In fact, I was glad to hear it.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, I would actually go with what originally was the last track, and that is Temporarily Blind.
Okay.
It kind of just doesn't really do much for me.
I understand. Yeah.
And there was a close second. I don't know if we want to talk about the B. I'll only talk about the B, my B cut.
When we go into overtime.
Yeah, well, we won't go into overtime for this one though. So
yeah.
So one I was considering was Sidewalk, and I'll tell you my reasoning.
Oh, really?
Is because I love Carry the Zero, I love Bad Light, and I love Time Traps so much that putting those three together would just be like,
yeah. I hear you.
So that's the only reason I would have like that. That was going to be my backup. But yeah, Temporarily Blind just kind of, I don't know.
I think Temporarily Blind would have been my backup, honestly.
Yeah. Not that we want to, but just
it's a reality of life. Buy music on vinyl, buy it on CD, live your life, actually live your life, and tell me what happens. Like, you'll lose one.
Exactly. Always.
And this is where this is our concern, dude.
It is. So please play along. Let us know what you would scratch below.
Also,
let us know, what your favorite track is, and what your other favorite albums would be.
We didn't even ask that. I divulged my favorite track, which is Time Trap, but I would like to know yours.
It's tough, man. It's between Carry the Zero and Bad Light. I'd probably go with Bad Light. I just love the anticipation of that build. I just love it. Yeah, I just love it so much.
That's fair.
Yeah. And I think so like we said, let us know your favorite tracks, but also, we want to do we're going to do some more Built to Spill albums. What one would you guys like to hear us talk about next? Because we will take a poll, and that's the one we'll probably choose, as long as it's one that we want to do.
I would think so.
Yeah. So
maybe Randy will describe eternity to all of us. And we hope so.
Yeah. I really hope so. But all right. I think that about wraps it up here, Mr. Grimm. What do you say?
I think so, dude. So I think it's time to go. The Dude and Grimm Show.
Keep it like a secret.
Scratch a Track is produced by the Dude and Grimm. Additional music provided by Moore and the Tims. Copyright 2021, The Dude and Grimm Show.